Good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever and whenever you are. My name is Ben, and welcome to part 2 to my Godot tutorial series on building a platformer. Now, if this is the second time you're watching part 2, it's because I'm basically redoing part 2. So I decided to make some changes to how I did the last video, so I'm going to be taking that one down and just redoing the whole video for this because I feel like it could just be done better. So I've zoomed in here so you can see the code better. So if in the last video it was too small for you to see the code, you should now be able to see it quite a bit better and copy that over. So I'm going to come back into our world, and in your project you probably have a lot of walls down here that you've created. So you're just going to delete those walls. And once you've done that, you should have the exact same project as me. Now, in the description, I'm going to provide a download link to some sprites, and these sprites come from openpixelproject.com. So I'm going to be using these lovely sprites that have been provided. They're public domain, very, very cool. So you'll want to check these out. Once again, openpixelproject.com. Now, I have changed the sprites a little bit to make them so that they work better for our purposes. Basically setting up, I did some setup. So you're going to have a folder that you can download. There'll be a link in the description, and it's just going to be called Sprites. And let me pull it up here real quick. So it will have Sprites. It'll be a folder like this, and it will have a player with some animation stuff right here, and then it will have tiles with just a single tile set. So you're going to download that, extract it, and then you're going to copy that and go into your project folder. So you can see I've found my project folder, mini platform game, right here. I'm just going to paste that in here. So now the sprites should be included inside of our project folder. And then when we click on Godot again, it will import these assets. And we're good to go. So we're going to cover tiles in this. And in order to create a tile set, let's do that very first. We'll create a new scene. So click this plus button right here. Oh, before we get started though, I want to show you kind of what it's going to look like when we're done. So let me pull up the project here that I've got as an example project and run it. So this video is going to be a little bit longer, but I hope you'll stick around because this is what we're going to have by the end of the project. Have a little character that can run around and move in this world. Animated with a nice looking tile set. I think this looks really good. This will be the end product after only 2 videos, and we'll be doing a little bit of coding, but not really a lot of coding. So it's going to be a really good start with very little effort, I feel like, on our part. So let's create a new scene, and we'll just click this plus button right here. And we need to use this scene to create our tile set. So I'm going to add a node here, just do a basic node. And we're going to name this Jungle Dirt Tiles. Well, we'll just do tiles. Jungle Dirt Tiles. Okay. Now we need to add a sprite here. So add a node and do sprite like this, just sprite. And we'll drag our tiles into here as the texture. Now you can see these are blurred right here. So Godot, when you need to import the assets, it will apply certain information to the asset. And the reason these are blurred is because it's either filtered or bitmaps are on. I'm not sure which one it is by default, but it's designed for a 3D game, but we're doing a 2D game. So the way to fix this is come into the import tab right here, select your preset and do 2D pixel, and then click re-import. Okay. And you can see now we've got it correctly. They're no longer blurred. It's nice pixel art. So we can come back to our scene tab, and down in our inspector here, we're going to do 2 things. We're going to turn off centered because we want it to be the left corner like that. And then we're going to come to region and turn on region. Now it's going to disappear and you're going to be like, where'd our sprite go? Well, when you have a single tile set like this, you can turn on region, and then down here in the bottom it'll show texture region. So we can click on this, and we can draw a region for it to show. And we'll turn on snap mode, grid snap. This particular asset has a grid size of 32 by 32, so come into your step right here, and instead of 10, do 32. Oops, not 320. 32 and 32, press enter. And now you can see we can easily, you can use middle click to kind of come around in here to navigate. We can easily select tiles that we want. So we'll do this tile first. And the reason I'm doing this tile first, I'll show you in a, you'll kind of see as we get done. But we need to add a collision to this tile. And we're going to be adding a static body collision. So I'm going to do a mini challenge here, which is I want you to pause the video, and then on this sprite right here, you'll add a static body node, and then on that node, you'll add, as a child of it, you'll add a collision shape, and then you'll get your collision shape to be the same size as this square here. So pause your video and give that a try. Okay, if you didn't pause your video, or if you ran into some problems, I'm back. I'm going to show you how to do it. So let's add a node here. We'll just do a static, I'm searching here, static body 2D. And we're going to add a node to that, and we'll do a collision shape 2D. And this should be familiar to you from the last video. So collision shape 2D, then we need to come down here to shape, do create new rectangle shape. Now we're going to set its transform, so that's the position it's at, to 16 and 16, because that's the middle. And then we should be able to grab these inside ones right here. Remember, don't grab the outside. Grab the inside ones right here to drag it and make it fit the correct shape. And we'll save this scene. I'm going to do Control S and jungle dirt tiles. That looks good. We'll save it. Okay. Now what you're going to want to do is you might as well just set the collision shape to be not visible so we don't see it anymore. Then click on your sprite here and click this little icon right here. That way we can move the sprite around without selecting the other nodes that are children of it. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do Control D, and that will duplicate it. You can see, oh, actually delete that. I'm going to hit delete. We're going to name this sprite 0. Just because it's our first tile, so I'm going to name it 0. And I'm saving too soon after changing it. Okay, there we go. So now do Control D, and the next one should be named 1. We can drag it over, and we're going to select this one right here. Do Control D, drag it over. We'll select this one right here. Okay, do Control D. Now I'm going to drag this one down to here, and you'll see why I'm doing them in kind of this order in a minute. And we'll do this edge right here. Control D, drag it over. We'll do the black center right there. Control D again. Grab this edge. Control D again. And now we need the bottom, which is up right here. Then Control D. This one, and Control D. This one. There we go. And the reason we set up the collision first is so that now all of our other ones already have collisions on them. We don't have to do that again. And you can see this kind of makes if you put all these together, it makes the ground that we're trying to create. It's kind of works together this way. Once you've done this, we need to save it as an actual tile set. So go to Scene, Convert to, if I can hit it, okay, Tile Set, and we'll just name this Jungle Dirt Tile Set. Oh, we got to add an extension. I'm going to do TRES. There we go. And we can close out of this scene. Now in here, we can add a new node, and you'll use a tile map node. This is the node that contains tiles. So we'll add this node to the scene. And I always like to lock my tile map nodes using this button right here. So I don't accidentally select them when I'm trying to select the player. You have to click on it to actually select it. And then we'll come to our resources tab up here, and we'll drag our jungle dirt tile set into the tile set to use for this. Now if you drag this out just enough, boom, it creates the dirt tiles. It kind of looks nice that way. It makes it easier to find the one you want. So, and obviously it doesn't work if you drag it out farther, but I think it's useful to do this. Now we need to set the cell size because this is not the right cell size. So we need to set this to 32 and 32. And we should be good to go. So we're actually going to change the size of our room here very first. So save the game. Come up to project and project settings. Now there's a lot of information in here. So if you feel like digging around in this, you can probably learn some new things, like where they use the input map. Remember how we had UI right and left and stuff? That's where this stuff is created. But we're just going to be in general, and we're going to choose display and then come to window. We'll set our game's width to 640 and the height to 360. It's a 16:9 aspect ratio. And close. And you can see the little blue and purple lines here change. So we can select our player, move them up here, and start creating our tiles. So let's just do here, like this. Obviously, I do want to eventually show you guys how to do auto tiling, but I'm not ready for that yet, so we'll just do this real quick. I'll set up an auto tile and stuff for all this later and then teach you guys, for the sprites, and then teach you guys how to do it. So you can save the game and run it. And we're going good. Our screen here is pretty small though. I'd like this to be bigger, so let me show you guys how we do that. So if you come into your project settings again, come into Windows, or Display Window, right here, what you want to do is you want to set the test width to 1280 and the test height to 720. Okay? Close, run the game again. Now you're going to see this doesn't quite work how we want it to. And you can see that it scaled the window here, but it didn't actually scale the world inside of the window. So if we come to project again, project settings, then we can do mode, you're going to do 2D, and then aspect, you're going to do expand, I think. So let's run it and test that. If I remember correctly, that's what you should do. And there you go. Now we're looking good. It's scaled up and everything. Save your game. The next step is going to be animating our character. So let's get doing that. The first thing we want to do, let's get rid of the output here and select our player so we don't have the tile map selected anymore. Let's scroll in on our player a little bit. Zoom in with scroll. First thing we need to do is change this from a sprite, because we're actually not going to be using a sprite anymore. We're going to be using an animated sprite. So right click on this node and come down to change type and search sprite, and you should see animated sprite. Okay. Now we don't have a sprite anymore. We have a thing called frames. And if you just click on that and then do new sprite frames, then when you select the node, then you click on that right there. I lied. And it brings up this sprite frames tab down here. After you've created it should be right here, and then you just click on it. Now over here on the left, these are animations, and in here are the frames for each animation. So we're gonna change this from default to idle. Come into our sprites, into our player sprite, and we'll drag over idle. Drop it right there. Now you can see this one's blurry too, so I don't know exactly how to get it to just grab everything and re-import it. There might be a way to do it, but the easy way to do it here is just to select this, hold shift, select all of them like that. Come up to import, switch to 2D pixel again, and do re-import. And that should fix all of them, I think. Okay, so now our character's looking good. Let's create our other animation. So click here for new animation. We'll name this one run. And just do run 0. Why is that run 7? Pretty sure that should be run 6. But oh well. So run 0, run 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, it should be 5 actually. Geez, I can't count today. Okay. Now if we come into our scene and we select our sprite again, we can change the animation to run and we can actually see it running. And then set it to play like that. There we go. That's kind of slow though, so click on our sprite frames again and let's up our speed here to 10. That's a better speed. 10 seems like a much better speed. Now let's create our jump animation. Jump. And with this one, I'm just going to drag in jump frame 1 and leave it at that. I won't do any more. We might use the rest of the jump frames later, but for now we're just going to use this one. Okay, so we've got our idle and run and our jump. So we'll save, click on the animated sprite and switch it back to idle for now. Now we need to update our collision shape right here. So I've already updated the collision shape on my example project, and so we can kind of just do that. But if you click on it, click on the shape, that's weird that it shows world. I don't know, whatever. Okay, so our X tints are going to be 14 on the X and 28 on here. There we go. So you can see I just had the shape right here. I clicked on the shape and it opened up an X tints tab. I clicked on that and then I altered the X tints. And that just changes the size. So now we're going to change the offset. So come into transform. And we're going to want to go into the position. And we're going to just set our Y to 4. There, now we've got a nice perfect shape around our character. And you don't have to use a square. You could use, if you wanted to use a capsule or something too, depending on the type of game you're trying to make. But I'm going to use a square for now and call it good. Now if we run our game, we can move around in this nice lovely world, but our character doesn't animate. So we're going to have to program that, obviously. So click on the script right here. That will open up your character's script. And we're going to create some, let's start with the very basics. So currently this script is attached to the player who is a kinematic body 2D, right? But we need to run code on the sprite right here, this node. So in order to run code on the sprite, we need to get access to it. And in Godot 3.0, there's a really easy way to get access to it. Let me show you how you do that. You can just do the $sign and then sprite. Okay, that lets us get access to this node, and then we can do whatever we want, like sprite dot. Let's do what's something that we'll be using probably. Flip H equals true. So that flips the sprite horizontally. Okay, sprite dot flip H equals true. You get the general idea. So first of all, let's try setting it. So inside of input is action pressed UI right. Let's do that. We'll do sprite dot flip H equals false. We don't want to flip the sprite there because it's already right. And then for left, we'll do sprite dot flip H equals true, right? And run the game. Let's see if this works. We'll just start with the very basics. And it's working. Our sprite is now flipping left and right. So we've got the basics down. We're looking good. We're looking good. We know how to access the sprite node and flip it. So how do we play our animations? Well, let's go to the docs again. I want to really emphasize using the docs. So we know the animation is going to be part of the sprite node. So let's come into search help and we'll just type in animated sprite class. Now let's look at the functions we have. We have frames. We have a string called animation. Oh, well, that's useful. I didn't know that. We have an int, which is the current frame we're on. We have whether we're playing, whether we're centered. Our methods here, we have is playing, play, and stop. And you can see play takes a string that's the animation. So if you remember, if we come back into our animated sprite here and we click on the frames, these are the names that we would pass into that function, idle, jump, and run, because we created them right here. So let's click on our help again here. Animation, well, let's not worry about signals yet. So the one that we're probably going to be using is mainly going to be play. So let's click on it and read what it says. It says right here, play the animation set in a parameter. If no parameter is provided, the current animation is played. So let's go to, so animation must be the current animation. So let's go to our code. Let's see if we can use this. We're going to create a function though. Well, let's just try using play first. Okay, so come into run right and we'll do sprite.play run. There we go. So we'll try running for both of these. And then obviously when our motion is equal to 0, we'll just try idle and see how this works. Okay. We'll save and run the game. And it's working. It's awesome. And that's about as easy as it gets, right? Like not too hard there. So now we're going to have to make some changes though. And it's because of the way our jump works. Because you saw, we can't really just have him play the animation right there because it can mess it up when we're trying to play the jump animation. So if we're on the floor, let's look at our code here. I'm going to press return a few times here so I can get centered on the screen a little better. So if we're on the floor, we can jump. However, if we're not on the floor, else, that means we're in the air. So if we're in the air, we're going to set our sprite's animation. Sprite.play jump, right? That's what we'd want to do. Let's run the game. Well, that looks really good. And that's all the code we needed to write, apparently, to get it working. So I'm really glad I took the time to to do it this way real fast, because the way that I'd planned out in my example is not quite as clean as this. So I'm pretty happy about that. Now, if you don't want to access the node like this every time, first of all, there's actually a function you can use instead. So instead of doing sprite, you could do get node sprite like this. And that's the same thing as this. This is just a shortcut for getting access to the sprite here. And obviously the name of this makes it different for this. So if this was called sprite 57, we would have to do sprite 57 here. We wouldn't be able to just do sprite. So you can get access to this node and save it in a variable as well, which we may cover later, but for now I think we should just use this because it's actually pretty clear and pretty easy to understand. So there you go. We made quite a few big steps today, and we've got a pretty cool looking game for only 2 videos. We're just pretending like the other video didn't happen. So for only 2 videos, this is looking really good. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.